This is an interesting thing that the creator of Game of Thrones said, and I want to get your opinion on it. All right, you see that? Okay. All right, Game of Thrones creator George R. R. Martin warns creators ignore canon and the world you created comes apart like tissue paper. Game of Thrones creator issued a scathing warning to Hollywood creators and others that if they ignore canon, their world and the worlds they are adapting will fall apart.
I would agree.
Yeah, in a new blog post, Martin discussed the dragons in Game of Thrones and compared the contrasted them to the various other dragons such as J.R.R. Tolkien's Smaug and I'm not even trying to say that in Dragon Slayer, as well as Toothless and How to Train Your Dragon among others. After dealing with how adaptations of a series got the Targaryen heraldry wrong by including dragons with 4 limbs rather than 2, Martin's fantasy needs to be grounded. It is not simply a license to do anything you like. Smaug and Toothless may both be dragons, but they should never be confused. Ignore canon and the world you've created it comes apart like tissue paper. Which is true. All right. And this is the issue that we're having with Star Wars, is that they have ignored
ignored all source material.
Right. Because they decided that they can just take it like the outline of what Star Wars is and plug in their characters and it will still work. It's like, no, things work the same for a reason. And because you don't get people who don't understand that, you wind up with things like at the end of the last episode of The Acolyte, where Saul is standing there, and instead of just lifting the 2 little girls off of the bridge, they went for what they thought was a cooler shot of him holding up the bridge, 2 bridges. So everybody looked at that. I'm like, dude, that's stupid. So you trying to hold up tons of metal instead of 2 60-pound girls. That doesn't make any sense. Again, it's just not understanding like the source material and not caring. These comments come about a month after Martin bashed Hollywood screenwriters and producers for believing they can improve on the source material of standout authors such as Ian Fleming, Stan Lee, J.R.R. Tolkien, and others when they attempt to adapt their stories to film or television. Here. Like everywhere you look, there are more screenwriters and producers eager to take great stories and make them their own. It does not seem to matter whether the source material was written by Stan Lee, Charles Dickens, Ian Fleming, Roald Dahl, Ursula K. Le Guin. Ursula K. I'm not even trying to say that. Mark Twain. Yeah. Mark Raymond Chandler, Jane Austen, or anyone, no matter how major the writer is, no matter how great the book, there always seems to be someone on hand who thinks he can do better, eager to take the story and improve on it. I can't disagree with that. Because
you think you can improve on things?
No.
As long as you stay respectful of the source material.
Whenever you're making something, whereas a book or whatever, the thing about like Revenge of the Sith, if you read the novel versions of them, you get more insight to why Anakin made the decisions that he made, which you don't get in the movie.
Okay.
Yeah. So there are certain things. There's a way that you write a screenplay as versus the way that you write a novel. In a novel, you can get inner thoughts and this person's inner thoughts and why the decision, and you can really go in to give you a full representation of the person. What you can do in a movie, but you do it differently. Like in a book, you can tell because that's all you can do in a book is tell. You tell everything. You tell this, and you set up the scene. You set up this. You're telling everything. In a movie, it is visual, so you have to show.
Yeah.
Right. So, like an example of I went to go when was it The Dark Knight, right? So I went to go see The Dark Knight with a friend of mine back when it came out, and he was upset because what's her name? Al Ghul, his daughter. I can't remember her name. The way that she dies at the end. So she's a trained assassin. So she should have fought. So in his mind, he said that she should have fought Bruce at the end. And I'm like, bro, they never set that up at all in this movie. So you're working off the assumption that because you know that she's a trained Talia al Ghul, right? Because you know that she's a trained assassin, that other people know that. They don't know that. So in order for this to happen, you have to show at the beginning of the movie, and it'll been kind of simple when they were exchanging scars. She could
Mm-hmm.
have told him that, yeah, like I dabble in the kung fu. I mean, I dabble in this particular thing, and I do all this other stuff to hide to give the audience an indication of she knows a little bit about that. Then you would show her doing something that would show people that she knows, like that she can handle the physicality of it. But you have to show them. If you don't
Mm-hmm.
ever do that, like then like if you never do that, then people will be confused. It's like with the metal in the acolyte when he's shutting down the lightsabers and all that stuff and headbutting the lightsabers and blocking with his wrist and all that stuff, right? If you're familiar with that element, then you know it's like, okay, you know what that is. Most people, 90% of the people who watched that show had no idea what the hell was happening. So it leads to confusion. It's because again, you can explain it while it's happening in a book. All right. So the book is the book, the film is the film, they will tell you. As if they're saying something profound, then they make their own the story their own. They never make it better though. 999 times out of 1,000, they make it worse. However, did note that sometimes they do get it right, and he praises FX recent Shogun adaptation. Once in a while, though, we really get good adaptations and of a really good book, and when that happens, it deserves applause. Sorry, I came across instances recently with Shogun. I think the author would have been pleased. Both old and new screenwriters did honor to the source material and gave us terrific adaptations, resisting the impulse to make it their own.
Dang, preach it, brother.
Well, it's like, well, I mean, it's the truth. Part of the reason why Shogun worked so much is because the person who, and it's the same thing with One Piece, and it's the same thing with a bunch of other ones that work, is the person who had overall control of it understood the source material. With Shogun, you had an actual Japanese person who understood
Right.
how Japanese culture works.
Yeah.
So and is a has an interest in history, right? So it's the same thing with One Piece. The person who created One Piece had total control over
Was in
that
it.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything. So if they did something that he didn't like, he's like, reshoot that. That don't make any sense.
That even happened with the Super Mario Brothers movie, right?
Right.
That
So,
could have that movie could have went really south, like really fast, because those are, licensed characters, and then
mhm.
if you have the freedom to do whatever you want, and that could have gone in a really poor direction.
Apparently, that scene where she is calling, like when she dismisses Mario,
Hmm.
that is a leftover from the original screenplay.
Oh,
So it's like
okay.
they already were. So yeah. So like Nintendo was like, no, you're not doing that. No, you are not putting. No, this is about Mario and Luigi and Princess Peach. This is not about Princess Peach. If you want to make a Princess Peach movie, make a Princess Peach movie. This is the Mario brothers. This is about the two brothers.
Yep.
They're not incompetent. You're not doing the normal thing that you have done with every other stupid thing where because you cannot write a strong female character, what you do is you make the male characters stupid.
Exactly.
And
I I think that's the problem with the Acolyte. I mean, to no one's surprise, right?
mhm,
Yeah, it feels like it's not even Star Wars. It's like they just have, like, these people, like, random characters with like random problems,
mhm,
and then they just put the Star Wars name to it.
right, it's because
Yeah, it
she
has like it has very little to do with Star Wars, even though there's Jedi's in there, but they have changed like what a Jedi is and what they
mhm,
stand for.
yes,
Oh man.
it is because the showrunner went out of her way to hire people who knew nothing about Star Wars, and she
Yeah,
doesn't know anything about Star Wars herself.
yourself exactly.
And this has been a problem with a lot of Disney products lately, where it's like, all right, so the Wanda TV show, the reason why everyone was speculating that Mephisto was going to be involved because Mephisto was actually involved in the story that they were adapting. The person who was the screenrunner of it did not know that. So she was confused at why everybody was expecting something and it didn't happen and they were disappointed.
Oh,
She's like, I don't know why I did like, And it's like, dude, because that's this story that you're telling. The reason why it all happens is because of Mephisto. So but you have no idea who Mephisto was until people pointed it out, and they were looking forward to seeing like who this person was. Like maybe this person is Mephisto. Maybe like when her brother showed up, like maybe he's Mephisto, and she was all confused, like who's Mephisto? But this just goes back to what he was saying.
I didn't know that happened.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's like they don't understand the source material, and you wind up with these terrible products. And just like it was something. Hopefully, we are done with the girl boss like crap. Because everything that's coming out was made 2 or 3 years ago when we was in full born girl boss mode, and now they have realized that people do not want. Because apparently, like that Furiosa movie, and I've said this before, supposedly was pretty good, but people didn't go see it because it's whoever cut the trailer made her into a girl boss, and apparently she's not a girl boss in the movie for the most part. And the part of the reason why people got upset at the end of Dune is because they made Zendaya's character kind of girl bossy when she was upset. I'm like, that's not how it happens in the book. Like, so people see, this is what I never understand. Is like they make these things, they say piss on the people who are fans of the thing, and then they're shocked when the thing don't like. Because everybody knows a fan of whatever it is. So everybody knows somebody who was like a fan of whatever, huge fan. And it's like, are you gonna go see blah blah blah? Like, nah. Like, why? Because it's done, and they go into this whole thing. So if they don't want to go see it, well, that's probably not gonna be good then.
Yeah.
Right. And then these people don't seem to understand that because they think that they for some reason they think that they can take these old stories that are a product of their time for the most part, like from the mentality of the person who wrote them, to modernize them. It's like, well, people are fans of the actual work that was made in the 80s, in the 50s, in the 60s, and whatever, right? It's like James Bond is a product of the 60s, but he acts like a product of the 60s. You modernize him and you make him into a whiny person who, bro, he's
having hate that. Yeah.
Right. He's a like the whole angry, like the last one. I just basically called him Angry Bond because he was angry all the damn time. He's angry about everything. Like, dude, like what the hell, man? And like, first you made him blonde. He's not blonde. Then you angry about this, angry about that, yelling like I'm not interested in that. This is not James Bond. The last James Bond, as far as I am, Pierce Brosnan for me was the last James Bond. Because you still had Q. They added Q later, but it's like you had Q. It was quirky. It was like, yeah, he's a 60s spy. Of course, it's a little corny. He's hitting on everybody.
A little eccentric.
Yeah, I mean, but that's what James Bond is. That's why if they ever get a chance to redo Back to the Future, oh my god.
Oof. I could see a lot of things going wrong with that.
Because it is an 80s movie. Full of 80s ideas about stuff, 80s attitudes, 80s songs.
Imagine if they made that.
Oh, dude, it'd be a bunch of modern mumble rap type stuff. He'd be a girl. He'd probably be a person of color. And then it'd be probably throwing something like, well, you can't do the terrorist thing. So the terrorist thing will be gone. It'll probably be the police is the reason why he's being chased. Or something. It'll come up with some ridiculous nonsense.
Oh my gosh! Stop there, Siobhan. You're giving them ideas.
Right? It's the truth. It'll be some crazy nonsense. So like leave these products of their time alone. So let's see if he says anything else. I think this article is pretty much almost done. So all right. Martin says similar comments back in 2022 alongside Neil Gaiman. The two spoke on the subject during an appearance in New York City Symphony Space. How faithful did you have to be? Some people don't feel that they have to be faithful at all. There is this phrase that goes around, I'm going to make it my own. I hate that phrase. I think Neil probably hates it too. Gaiman said, I do. I spent 30 years watching people make Sandman their own, and some of those people hadn't even read the Sandman to make it their own. They just flipped through a few comics or something. Hard to tell. There are changes that you have to make, like I said, that you're called upon to make. I think they're legitimate. Yeah, you have to make it into a movie. Okay. Details Martin recalled The Last Defender of Camelot for Twilight Zone due to budget constraints, being forced to choose between having horses on an elaborate Stonehenge is set for the battle scene. Martin did not make the decision, so he left it up to. Oh man, let's put these names. Zelazny, who chose to cut the horses. To my mind, it's the kind of stuff you're called upon to do in Hollywood that is legitimate. He even noted that is why the Iron Throne is not depicted in the shows as written in the books, whereas the Iron Throne is not the Iron Throne is described in the books. It is not 15 foot high, made of 10,000 swords, because the ceiling of our soundstage was not 15 feet high. We couldn't fit it in there, and they were willing to give us St. Paul's. Like they weren't willing to give us St. Paul's Cathedral or Westminster Abbey to shoot our little show in. All right. Tolkien to tell that the story maker proves himself a successful sub-creator when he chooses to make a secondary world which your mind can enter inside it, and it relates. It is true and accords to the laws of that world. You therefore believe it while you are, as it were, inside. The moment disbelief arises and the spell is broken and the magic, or rather art, has failed, you are then out on the primary world again, looking at the little abortive secondary world from outside. If you're obliged by kindness or circumstance to stay, then disbelief must be suspended or stifled. Otherwise, listening and looking will become intolerable. But the suspension of belief is a substitute for the genuine feeling. A subterfuge we use when condescending to games or make believe, or when trying, or more or less willingly, to find a virtue we can in a work of art that has failed us.
That's another one that has been, I think, egregiously ignored. Lord of the Rings or Power of the Rings?
Yeah, is it because you choose to like he has a theme for his thing that everything has been constructed around, and you choose to ignore that for various reasons, be it political or whatever it is.
Personal, yep.
Yeah, personal. It's like, but then because then you eventually, like you said, you can't suspend belief because the one thing that everything is wrapped around is no longer there for whatever reason. So I don't know, but I think that is interesting.
I would agree with that article.
Yeah, I wonder if he came to that conclusion after season 8 of Game of Thrones.